I think that with gummies, one of the problems is there's no way to get a consistent proportion every single time. So let's see if we can change that and make a gummy that allows you to get a consistent portion every single time.
My name is Eric Strebel. I'm an industrial designer. Welcome to my channel about product design and making. I hope that you like, enjoy, and become a subscriber. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up, and then you hit the bell again, so you get the little parentheses around it. That way you'll be notified every time I have a new video. Don't forget to check out the design and making merch just below the video. All kinds of stuff, t-shirts, hoodies, and other miscellaneous fun things you might like. I've come up with a nice round form that is splayed so that you can easily remove the same amount from the object every single time. So to make these edibles, ultimately we need to have a silicone mold that we can pour our mixture into. So in CAD, I've created the form that we're going to make, and I'm showing you here in teal what the silicone mold is ultimately going to be. Now, to make this silicone mold, we need to make a mold so that we can make those. And to make this mold for the silicone, I'm going to 3D print this mold. And what you see here in the dark steel light for the top and dark for the bottom is the part that we're going to print, that we're going to ultimately fill with silicone to make our silicone mold for our edibles. Printing the molds took about 24 hours for each set, and here you can see a little time lapse of the molds being printed. So ultimately what you see on the bottom is the top of the mold on the right hand side, and on the left is the bottom of the mold. And when those two pieces go together, the void or the cavity on the inside will get filled with silicone to make one part of the silicone mold. Here is the other 3D printed mold that will make the second half of the silicone molds that we ultimately need to have to make these edibles. So these molds are 360 basically, kind of like an injection molded part. They are not like open face candy molds where you just pour your liquid in from the back side. These molds will ultimately go together and make a nice part on the top and the bottom. There'll be a little split line that runs through the middle of the part, and you'll see that. And here's how the two molds go together, and you'll notice they had a little opening in the top, and that's where we're going to inject the silicone in. We're going to use sort of clear, smooth cast silicone. This is stated as food safe on their website. And we'll mix some up here. It doesn't take a lot. It's only going to take about, I think it was like 65 cc's for each of the molds. So I'm going to mix up about 200 grams of silicone. That should be enough. And we'll mix that thoroughly, and we'll degas it, get all the bubbles out of it. This is a part A and a part B. I think it's like 100 to 10 is the ratio. It's pretty thick stuff actually. But the bonus here will be that they'll be sort of clear, and you'll be able to see the mixture going into the molds when we pour that. So after degassing in the vacuum chamber, we're going to put a little bit into the bottom of each of the half of the mold here, and then we'll pop the top on and we'll inject the silicone in through the top of the molds. And to do that, we're going to load up a couple of syringes so that we can inject the silicone into the 3D printed parts to get a nice, hopefully relatively bubble-free silicone mold. All right, let's pop the tops on, and you can see the holes at the top of the molds here, and that's where the syringe is going to inject the rest of the silicone to make the rest of the mold. A fair amount of pressure was needed. I don't think I made the holes quite big enough to inject the silicone in there, and then once the silicone started coming out of the little vent holes, I knew I had enough. And there's a fair amount of pressure, and I needed to clamp the molds together, actually, and that's what these clamps are doing, holding everything in place while the silicone sets up. About 18 hours later, the silicone is cured, and we can demold. You'll see some of the extra silicone here. This is the sprue from where I injected the silicone in. Need a little bit of brute force to get the molds apart. And I actually end up having to cut the molds and destroying them. So it would have been a little bit better to have the sides removable from the bottom here. So if I made something like this again, I would take that into account so that I can more easily remove the silicone molds from the inside. But since this is a one-time, one-shot sort of deal, I'm okay with destroying them. I could just print some more. They come out very nice. I'm super happy with them, and I'm just being extra careful here when I take them out so I don't rip them. The silicone is quite strong. So these are little vent holes from the silicone molding process. That's where any air would have escaped, so I could get a nice bubble-free part, and it worked quite well. And I'm just trimming off the little sprue here from the injection molding process. This is how the two halves go together. There is a pin, so the mold can only go together one way. Let's go make some edibles. The two halves of the molds, 3 packets of gelatin, and your favorite mixture. I'm using some Jell-O here. Mix that all up into a half a cup of cold water. And you're going to get a pretty thick mixture. But we need that to get a nice, firm edible. All right, once you've mixed up your concoction into this nice slurry here, we're going to pop it in a double boiler, and that's so we can heat the liquid without burning any of the sugars. Ultimately, you're going to get a very nice clear liquid. After about 20 minutes, the foam or the air bubbles are going to rise to the top. We're going to skim that off. This is the point where you could add something else to your gummy. If you choose to do so, this is where you want to add whatever else you want to add to your gummies. So we're going to suck this clear liquid up into a syringe, and we're going to pop it into our mold. I split the molds open here so that you can see the bottom. Since we're injecting with a syringe, that would not necessarily be needed. I'm going to pop the top on right now and inject the rest of the liquid through the hole at the top. You probably need some sort of a syringe or a piping bag or something that's going to be ideal in this situation, because just pouring it out of the measuring cup is going to be tough. Then we're going to get a beautiful translucent gummy that's going to be absolutely yummy to eat. Have the portion set for you, easily available. You can just tear that off or cut it with a knife, as I'll show you in a little bit. So this is a yellow one that I made, beautiful translucency. There's a red one that I made as well. They actually pop together kind of like Legos. And I'm going to show you here how you can cut the pieces very easily with a knife. Super easy to do. Of course, this mold has more uses than just making gummies. Let's make a chocolate edible. So again, we're going to double boil down some chocolate, fill the bottom really quick to show you how that's done. It's easier done with a spoon. Pop the top of the mold on, and we're going to use a syringe again, just like we did before, and fill the mold the rest of the way to make a yummy, yummy chocolate edible. If you're a big YouTube watcher, there is a relatively well-known YouTuber named Alex, French Guy Cooking. Love your show. Love your accent, by the way. Very cool. Love the stuff that you do. But next time you are designing some sort of a food edible, hire a designer to help you design the mold for your product. You can find a little link below to Alex French Guy Cooking channel. Check it out. He has fun stuff. Now there's an awesome other YouTube channel out there called Cocktail Chemistry. Also love this show, so I made some ice cubes in honor of that. Had to pour this in slow-mo. Lemmy demanded it. So we're going to toast to Lemmy and to Nick from the Cocktail Chemistry. Also love your channel. Link below. Cheers. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You can do that by clicking on the icon in the bottom right of the video or below the video. Give it a thumbs up and follow the channel there as well. You want to know about upcoming design content and projects that I'm working on? Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and my favorite, Google+. Links below. Rock on. Click here to check out some of the other design and making videos that I have that you might enjoy.